Good morning again at 7:11. This is Bob Bratina and Shiona Thompson. We're on CHML Morning News. Our topic right now is secondary school education and infrastructure, with 18 secondary schools located across the city and 15 schools involved in a secondary school pupil accommodation review. Salt Fleet, Waterdown, Westmount exempt because they are over capacity. But what about the other schools?
Well, and that's why we're in touch with the chair of the Hamilton-Wentworth District School Board, Jessica Brennan. She joins us on the line. Good morning.
Good morning indeed. How are you both?
Great. Never a dull moment over at the board, is it,
No,
Jessica?
as you know, very much so.
All right.
Now, when we talk about accommodation review, the first thing that jumps to people's minds are school closings. Is that the only thing that'll be before these committees?
Oh, certainly not. It's really to review how we're serving our students in the secondary panel across the entire district, how best to serve them, and looking at programs and rearranging resources in order to deliver excellent programs. So it's a full review, and in fact the committees themselves will have access to tons of information in order to make good and effective recommendations to the Board of Trustees.
Are you going to have any public input? Can I come and say something?
Well, you certainly
No?
can, and always happy to hear it, Bob.
Thanks, Jessica.
But as you can see with the composition of the membership, each of the committees will in fact have non-voting members that will include the counselors for those wards. So counselors are invited to participate in the membership of the committee, and of course, where a counselor is not involved directly in the committee, they would be able to participate just as the rest of the public in terms of coming to the committee with information and perspectives and opinions. And there will be 4 public meetings for each of those groupings.
Right. One of the things, let me throw this at you. When we all went to, when we went to high school, you walked or somehow got to the one that was in your neighborhood. Now the board distributes students across to different places based on other considerations, the programs of choice and so on. So what do you have to say about students in a so-called catchment area leaving the area to go to other places?
Well, certainly that whole notion would also have to be examined. I know informally there have been various thoughts expressed, but moving it to the level of a formal decision making will also have to come to the Board of Trustees around that, because certainly when you move when you start thinking in terms of catchment and then you ask for people to move out of catchment because of certain programs, you definitely immediately get into a transportation issue, and then that of course is an accessibility issue in terms of equity. Like, some people will be able to do that, some people would be able to get themselves to another school. So that's another issue, and certainly one that requires some good, thoughtful consideration.
Well, transportation is such a huge issue with your board to begin with.
It certainly is. Clearly we would want to be having a more effective transportation service, and that's also an issue that this current crop of trustees have been discussing and hoping to see changed and evolve over the next little while. So that, again, these things may not be all part of the same thing, but they're clearly related discussions.
Well, we'll be continuing our discussion in a couple of minutes on AM 900 CHML. When we do, we'll be talking about the specific advisory committees.
7:21, this is CHML Morning News with Bob and Shiona and Jessica Brennan, Hamilton School Board. As the chair of the board, Jessica is the spokesperson for, some interesting times in education, and we're right now talking about the Secondary School Pupil Accommodation Review Committee.
And whenever you take a look at accommodation, inevitably you're going to be looking at consolidation. And Jessica, that is going to mean that some of the schools may have to close.
And they may have to close, and again, I don't want to overly speculate. It will be the work of the ARCs to make that recommendation. But if they do close, any close, it doesn't mean that the building itself will not be used for other purposes. I think one of the things we are asking the committees to even think about is other uses of the buildings and et cetera. It should such a decision be made.
Yeah, Jessica, there's another issue, which is cooperation and collaboration between the city and the board. And as you know, I'm very excited about the Beasley Dr. Davies situation, which combines a city-provided community center attached to those school boards' brand new Davies School, and really looking forward to the synergies that can arise from that relationship.
Absolutely, and I think the relationship between the city and the board on these matters over the last 3-4 years have really improved. There's a lot more discussion beforehand, thinking together and planning together, and certainly the committees and the work of the committees, we will have to be in touch with the city as we go through.
Right.
Well, Jessica, getting back to the high school accommodation situation for a second, there are 3 different committees that are being struck, one for the west, one for the south, one for the north.
Yes.
There are 4 high schools that are grouped together for the west, but 6 for the north. And it just seems to me that the number of schools being considered, that varies widely.
Well, the number of schools in each of the committees is not really so much the matter as constructing who is in the committee, what schools are in the committee based on location, space, and program placement. So these schools are being grouped together because they neighbor each other. And that's why we have different numbers in each group.
Because, some people might think that grouping things in a certain way or having more high schools in one committee than another means that you're looking at one area more than others for closure.
Well, again, I know that these kinds of processes do make us nervous in the community and make us think about school closures. And I'm not denying that. But on the other hand, related to all of this is really looking at enhancing our programming for our students across the district. So that would, of course, mean we're looking at things perhaps in a quadrant of, what are the best programmings that might occur in this area of the district and what might best occur in this other area of the district. So to me, it's natural that we would divide it this way, and it would. And again, the different numbers in each committee is really related to the geography and the space and program.
Well, the number that really stands out is $484.5 million, which is how much the operating budget is. And you've got to be very careful with that money.
Well, absolutely. And, as we move forward in looking at secondary schools of the future, which is another report coming to us in March, we really want to be designing programs and having enhanced learning environments that meet the future, the students of the future, not necessarily the students who would have been in those schools 40, 50, 60 years ago.
Well, Jessica, unfortunately, we'll have to leave that there, but we'll be so interested in seeing that report coming up next month, and we'll talk to you then.
I look forward to talking to you again.
Thank you so much.